Thank you. Welcome. My name is Erigaji and I'll be taking you through my project for statistics. My project title is There an Association Between Alcoholism and Depression Influenced by Employment Status in the United States of America. Why this research? Recently, 2 million people died in 2016 due to alcoholism and its negative effects. 264 million people suffer from depression currently around the world, according to World Health Organization. The data set that I'm using is the National Epidemiologic Survey on Alcoholism and Related Conditions (nesarc). It was created by the National Institute of Alcoholism in the United States of America, and I'll be using the second wave, which amounted 43,903 US citizens, using simple random sampling through their mails and their addresses. Questionnaires were set, and then they had 81% response rate, which is good for analysis. We are going to measure alcohol consumption, depression rate, employment status, and gender in our research. Our first association is there an association between gender and depression? So you use the kite test because both of the gender and the depression variables are categorical. Looking at the kite test statistics, before we go, we have the hypothesis, which states that they are independent, and alternate to say that they are dependent. Looking at the bivariate graph, it is suggesting that it is suggesting that the female is depressed more than the male. Now the p-value supports our claim from the graph, and then it says that because the p-value is zero, sorry, and the conclusion we made is that indeed females are more depressed than males in a year. Another relation we are going to look at is the employment status and depression. Because these two again are categorical, we are going to make the use of chi-squared test. Now we are going to focus, once again you can see my null and alternate hypothesis. We are going to focus on the bivariate graph again. What has this predicted? It is predicting that those who are unemployed, majority of them are not depressed at all. And those who are employed, majority, that's the blue line as you can see, are mostly depressed. About 65% of them are mostly depressed. How true is this? Let's find out from the kite test that we just did. The kite test brought a p-value of almost zero, approximately zero, which suggests that indeed it is true that the employed people are more depressed than the unemployed, which is plausible because of the work that they go through and the work that they do, the stress that it puts on them. The next association we are going to look at is the association between employment status and alcohol consumption. Which people drink alcohol most? We have our kite test once again because these two categories are categorical, and we have the employed and unemployed. Once again, we can see that the employed people have a higher percentage of them. That's about 65% again, being abstinence, and about 10% of unemployed people being those who drink regularly, which is about twice the proportion of those who are employed. Let's see if this observation is actually true or it's per chance. Now, after doing the chi-test statistics, the p-value obtained was approximately zero, which means that it is almost impossible to observe what we are observing, that the unemployed people drink more than the employed people. And this one too seems to be plausible because if you are working, there are regulations that regulate your intake of alcohol and prohibits them from drinking a lot. Now, when it comes to alcohol consumption, when it comes to depression rate, which sector of employment are mostly depressed? So we were able to pinpoint using the sector of employment from the code book, and we had two sectors, the government sector and the private sector. Now you can see from the bivariate graph that the private sector has a higher proportion being depressed than the public sector. Is this by chance? No. The p-value we had was actually almost zero, and it gives us a strong evidence that indeed the sector of employment has an influence, and that those in the private sector tend to be more depressed than those in the public sector. Why? Because they are working really hard to put their business on track. Otherwise, they might go hungry. Unlike the public sector, that whether they work hard or not, their government is going to pay them. Now, what have we discovered so far? from our research. We can see that indeed we have confirmed that gender has an influence in depression, such that females are more depressed than males. And this is due to the reason that according to Ant et al. In 2002, when she did the analysis, she realized that most females had less tactics or methods of dealing with depression, unlike males. That's why males have a lower percentage when it comes to depression. Males can go out and play football, games, a lot of fun activities which kills off the depression, unlike females who like to keep it to themselves, not seek for treatment. That's what, according to Anne et al. 2002, suggested. Employment status also served as a strong influencing factor in alcoholism and depression in the United States. Now, what is the purpose of our research? What can it be used for? The government, if it's seeking to deal with depression in our country, it is better the government looks at one, the females, policies that can help females come out for their to talk about their depression, and also focus on the private sector of the employment of the employed. Now, the research has a little bit of limitation, such that we did a lot of screening of the data set, which reduced the data size from the original size. However, it was substantial for analysis. Future research could go into the association of alcoholism and other mental association or mental deformities if alcoholism actually has a negative mental effect on people. Thank you very much for coming through this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.